You're watching Car Babble, I'm Ewan, and this is the Hyundai Tucson Hybrid in premium spec, and it's also my mum's car. Now, this is going to be an interesting review, not so much because it's my mum's car, but because we own / lease the Hyundai Santa Fe in plug-in hybrid ultimate top trim. And this is the full hybrid non-plug-in in premium mid-spec trim. And you can also get the SE Connect, which is the bottom spec, but we don't want to talk about that. But it's going to be interesting to see the comparisons between this and its bigger brother, the 7-seater that we've got. So I will be referring a few times to that, but I'm also going to do a follow-up video with some specific differences and comparisons to that, so keep an eye out for that. But I want to answer the question in a really crowded mainstream compact SUV segment, is this the one to go for? So if you enjoy my videos, don't forget to like and subscribe, otherwise buckle up and let's get into it. Now let's briefly talk about the looks of this car. If you're watching my channel, you'll know I'm not one for spending too much time telling you about things that you can see for yourself and tell me what you think about the looks. Mum, I'm not going to lie, I don't really like the look of your car, sorry. I think it's a lovely colour in metallic black, but I'm just not a big fan of this really futuristic looking design, and there's just a lot going on here. Just not really sure what's happening there, so I'm not sure that's going to age very well, that look, but yeah, it's definitely going to be Marmite. Then there's a side view, which, yep, don't know what to say about that really. They're really going all out to try and be overly futuristic with these really sharp creases and lines, and it just feels a bit too much for me. There's the plastic cladding's very thick all the way around, and the wheel arches themselves are a funny shape. I like the 19-inch alloys, they're nice, but yep, I really think they've overdone it with the design here. Then there's the back end, which actually I think is the nicest angle of the car for me, but still futuristic looking, but I think it looks a bit more traditional boxy SUV-ish, and I quite like that, so I haven't got as many issues about that. One thing I do have a problem with, and it's the same in the Santa Fe, and it seems to be something Hyundai have really copped onto that doesn't really make any sense, is the indicators. Why the heck are they down there? So the whole point of indicators is that the people behind you, especially for the rear ones, is that they can see which way the car in front is going to go before they do it. And so if you're behind this car and you're close to it, you're not going to be able to see those indicators down there. So bit of a chocolate fire guard. Now let's have a look at the boot of the Tucson. It's important to say that if you go for the premium spec as opposed to the ultimate trim, you don't get a power tailgate, and therefore you have to open it manually, and it's a bloomin' heavy boot. That is the number one thing my mum has griped about. So if you're an older person, you might want to think of getting the ultimate trim, because that is a very, very heavy boot to open, and my mum really never shuts up about it, to be honest. Anyway, this is a very, very big load bay. It is not adaptable in terms of the way you move your seats forward and back, but you have got 616 litres in the hybrid, and you get a little bit more in the non-hybrid and a bit less in the plug-in hybrid. But that is a really good load bay. 40-20-40 split folding rear seats, a couple of tie down points. You've also got a 12-volt socket, some underfloor storage here for an umbrella and some other stuff my folks have forgotten to take out the car for my review. But yeah, it's a really good sized boot, and if you put all the seats in, you've got about 1800 litres of space. I've also got this parcel shelf here, and once you've wrestled with it and put it back, you know, it's a really good boot. If I was to summarise what size of family would ideally fit the Hyundai Tucson, it would be a family of 4, not a family of 5, because this middle seat is narrower and it's not as comfortable, but a couple of kids or even babies with rear facing child seats, plenty of space back here. Seats are pretty comfy, just like the front, and my seat's in my driving position. I'm 5'9", and I've got plenty of knee room, plenty of headroom as well. But if you were to get the ultimate trim, you'd get a pan roof as standard, and that would eat into headroom. But yeah, it really feels like for a couple of kids, it's perfect back here. The window line's quite high, so some really small kids might struggle to see out, but the windows do go all the way down, which is good. You get no air vents whatsoever in the premium spec, and you've got 2 USBs down the middle there. You've also got the center armrest with a couple of cup holders, plasticky, non-adaptive, and you've got door bins, which are basically for bottles only. They're tiny, plasticky, rattly. I'm not even sure what size of bottle you get in there. They're not very good. Piano black on the armrests, and that's about it really. But yeah, a couple of kids will be very comfortable back here. This is a great car for a family of 4. So up front in the Tucson, and the first thing I think about is, wow, it's very modern and techy looking, but we'll talk more about tech in a minute. Let's talk about quality, because it's pretty good, Steering wheel feels nice in the hands. It looks really nice, and yeah, it's got a really sporty look about it. I like that. Gear shift panels back there. The buttons they're damped okay, but they just feel a bit cheap. I don't know. Touch points, although that's not touch point up there. You don't drive along going, oh, I feel that. But the elbow points here are very soft, but up there, not so much. The piano black's my main issue. There's a lot of it, and it's very easy to smudge, and it just looks cheap and plasticky, and it scratches really easily, so will not age well over time. And the indicator stalks, they're good quality, and the door close, that's good quality as well. So they get quite a lot of things right. And compared to its rivals, I would say quality is pretty good. Now, seat comfort is a really important thing for me in a car. And, well, the premium spec Tucson gets cloth seats, which don't feel very premium, to be honest. I think you need to go to the Ultimate trim to get leather seats. And if they're anything like the ones in the Santa Fe Ultimate, that might be a reason to upgrade, and you would get electric adjustment as well. You do not get any kind of electric adjustment in these. You just get two-way electric lumbar support, and there's not very many ways you can move them. But they're all right. You know, I don't think at the end of my journey I'm going to be going, oh my God, but they're okay. They're comfy enough. They don't hug you in that well. They're just a bit of a non-event, to be honest. But the driving position generally is very good. You get plenty of reach and rake in the steering wheel, and you're square on. So yeah, I don't think comfort over a long journey is going to be an issue, but I'm not really sure in the premium spec if it's going to wow you either. Now let's talk about storage, because it's okay. The center area is good. You've got two decent sized cup holders with two teeth on each one, again like the Santa Fe. Fit a fairly decent bottle in there, although it's going to stick up pretty far because it's not really deep. And the door bins, yeah. It used to be that door bins were for lots of things. Now it just feels like they're just other cup holders. There's really not much room for anything in there. Plasticky, cheap feeling, no real sort of work going on there to like stop things rattling about. You will get this big ball in there, push, but yeah, they're not very good. You've got very big central storage bin. It's very deep. Yeah, it's massive actually. And you've got this area at the front here for your mobile phone. I think that's where the wireless charging pad is if you have that in the Ultimate trim. You've got these tiny little pockets down here at the sides of the console. It's not like a floating console, but you can put your phone in there maybe or something if you wanted to. And then you've got the glove box, which is a decent sized glove box, except of course they've given you the Littlewoods catalogue of manuals like they do in the Santa Fe. So you'll end up just chucking those away because they're a pain in the neck. Now, there's something else in this car that really, really annoys my mum, and it wouldn't matter which spec you went for, it would still be a problem. This shift-by-wire gear system is really, really not good. There's a couple of problems with it. First of all, the design of this whole console slopes down the way, and I'm sure that looks really pretty, but the fact is, because it's buttons, when you want to see what button you're pressing, you really have to look down, and it's not just, oh, just look down and glance at it. Because it's sloping away, you're like all the way down there. And it's the same with these heated seats and steering wheel buttons at the front here. It's just like, you can barely see them at that angle. It's like sloping away properly, so that's not great. But with a gear stick, you want to be able to just quickly change gear and all that, but you always have to look down and go, drive or reverse. And unfortunately, that's not the problem really, even the fact that that's annoying. It's that sometimes you press the button and nothing happens. So say you're in a car park and you're in drive and you want to reverse and you press reverse. You think you've pressed it properly, and yet you lunge forward. It just doesn't seem to register your input sometimes. Even the parking brake sometimes. I'm like, I'm sure I pressed that and nothing happened. Do it again. Oh, there it is. It's really not a good system, not reliable. This whole electromechanical shift-by-wire thing, don't really think it works. And I've got the same problem in my Santa Fe. Really not a great system at all. And this whole console just isn't being designed very well. Now, technology in this car, like in the Santa Fe, I think is really good. I think where the Tucson edges it actually is there's less lag on the screen when I swipe. 10.25 inch touchscreen, that is, same size for the digital cockpit. One thing I don't like though is that the buttons, the shortcut buttons for the air conditioning and for your track forward, radio, media, etc. below it, they might as well be in the touchscreen because they're like a touchscreen. You have to really press like a bit of plastic, and there's no haptic feedback or anything, but it feels like you're just stabbing at a touchscreen when you're not. So that kind of feels a bit pointless. And yeah, your AC controls are all just these little tappy bits of plastic as well. So not really feeling that. Wish it was real buttons there. But yeah, it's a pretty modern looking system. The graphics are decent. It's very customizable as well. Same with the cockpit. I think it's really customizable, and the graphics are great here too. And yeah, you can really set it up to show whatever information you like. Really, really like all of that. You also get a Krell 8-speaker sound system in the premium spec and up, and it sounds pretty good. So that's decent. Generally feel like the technology works in this car and the safety tech works, and you get quite a lot of safety kit standard in the premium spec. And while we're talking about safety tech, you do get adaptive smart cruise control with the premium spec, and I think that's a must for any car that's claiming to be premium, except for German cars, because it's always an option with them. But anyway, I digress. But this one has good, reliable adaptive cruise control, and it's also got lane keep and lane trace assist. And the lane keep, of course, is always on when you start the engine. So if you want to switch it off, you have to hold down the button on the steering wheel for 3 seconds or so before it goes off. Find that suitably annoying. It just should be a press to switch off, but that's what they do at Hyundai, because they're hoping to make it annoying enough that you won't bother to switch off and somehow you'll be safer. No, sorry, don't agree with you at all. Left side of the steering wheel, you've got your telephone settings. You've got this little favourite star button, so you can change what that's for. You've got your volume and track skip, and your mode selector, and your voice control as well. So really good, useful steering wheel for the tech, and you generally just feel like all the tech is really high standard and you get a lot of it for your money. Now let's briefly talk about competitors, because there's a bloody lot of them. This is one of the crowded segments in car markets. Every car maker makes a compact SUV, whether it's a premium brand or not. In the premium segment, you're going to get like a BMW X3 or a Mercedes GLC or an Audi Q5 or something. But this really compares more to like a Toyota RAV4 or a Kia Sportage, which is the sister company Kia to this, and it's quite a bit more expensive for that same car, which is essentially the same under the skin and similar spec. So that's important to note. Then you've got other things like the Peugeot 3008 or a Volkswagen Tiguan, a Skoda Karoq. You could go on and on and on. There's so many of them out there, but the key thing is when you cost up one of them as a new car, what options do you need to add on to then get the same kit as you get in, for example, this premium spec Tucson? That's an important point, because I think you're going to find that the value option of this is going to be better than most of those. But this car costs from just over 30 grand for the SE Connect, which is the base spec, and that comes with a few bits and pieces, and it's not particularly badly spec'd, but it's really, really basic compared to the top of the line Ultimate trim, and that's coming up to about 43 grand for the Ultimate plug-in hybrid. In between, you've got this premium hybrid, which is around 36, 37k. And then in between that, depending on what engines you go with all these different specs, you've also got the N-Line, which is like a sportier looking version of the SE Connect spec. And then you've got the N-Line S, which is a sportier looking version of the premium spec. And I think that could be one to look at, but I really think the balance of value is probably somewhere in the middle. I think this drivetrain with a hybrid is the one to go for. And in premium spec, you're getting a lot of kit that really a lot of car makers option. So I think this is a really good all-rounder, but we'll talk more about the driving when we get it on the road. So we're out on the road in the Tucson, and I want to talk mostly about this hybrid, but let's quickly cover the different engine choices you've got. Well, I say choices. Every single version of the Tucson comes with a 1.6 turbocharged petrol engine, the T-GDi engine, mated to different types of electric motors in some cases and batteries. The base spec one is just literally the petrol engine. Then you get a mild hybrid option, then you get a full hybrid, which is this one, and then you get the plug-in hybrid option as well. And I'm going to say that I think that this full hybrid is the one to go for. I'll put the specs up for the other engines on my screen now, but this one has 227 horsepower and 350 newton meters of torque, and it'll do 0 to 60 in 7.7 seconds, and I think that is usefully quick. I don't find it's really lagging much behind diesel in any regard, and important to say that over a long period of time this car's getting 42.5 miles per gallon average, and that is really, really good. Diesel fuel economy, definitely, I would say. So if you can handle the fact that you cannot get an all-wheel drive system with this full hybrid, I don't know why that is, because you can get it in the mild hybrid one and the plug-in hybrid one, but you can't get it with the full hybrid. If you can handle not having all-wheel drive, I think this is the best blend of performance and economy. You will get more efficiency with a plug-in hybrid, but not as much fuel savings and energy savings as you maybe think, because the cost of electricity is expensive, and unless you just do lots of very short journeys and urban driving and charge it all the time, you will find that that difference is probably nominal. Driving characteristics are mixed. I find the steering to be reasonably responsive and tucks its nose in quite nicely and it's direct, but I find body control not as good as in the bigger brother, the Santa Fe, which I'm surprised at. And the big chink in the armor for me with this car is, and it could be partly because it's front wheel drive, but it just feels a little bit unbalanced in its weight, and it seems to wheel slip a lot. Off the line, going around corners, understeers a bit, and it just feels like it loses grip a lot as well. And I just find that it does not encourage me to drive it particularly spiritedly. Now, this car comes with a 6-speed automatic gearbox. You get dual clutch in other versions of it, but with the hybrid, it's a 6-speed torque converter. And you put your foot down, there's a lot of lag there before it kicks in the right gear, a lot of lag. But off the line, I've noticed compared to the plug-in hybrid in the Santa Fe, it's not quite as laggy. So I think the hybrid versus plug-in hybrid, it's maybe better at responding at slower speeds. But generally, I think the gearbox gets on and does its thing. I don't really find it's jerky or really missing a beat too much, and the hybrid system will smooth things out anyway. But there's definitely quite a bit of lag when you put your foot down. But it picks up speed really well. I mean, after you get over that initial lag, it's really good to go. There's plenty of performance here, overtaking, no problems at all. And that's why I really think this 1.6 turbocharged petrol with this hybrid system is a really good powertrain. It feels like it's got all the performance you need, but you're still getting decent fuel economy at the same time. Suspension's okay, it's not particularly wow comfortable, but it's not really that jarring either, so I wouldn't say they've done a terrible job with that. Overall refinement is a bit of an issue though. The petrol engine's really gruff and unrefined, and that's just something across the board with the Hyundais that have this petrol engine. So I do not find that particularly good. And there's a lot of noise coming from the tyres at higher speed, so it doesn't feel particularly quiet in here. Visibility is good all the way around. The only thing I would say is you've got the rear windscreen wiper coming down from the spoiler, and with that you get a kind of odd sort of pattern of window being cleared, and when you look back and it's dirty, yeah, you see a fairly small bit out of that dirty patch, and it's not particularly sort of symmetrical. I just don't think it looks right. So those are my thoughts on my mum's car. Let me know in the comments what you think about it, and if you enjoyed my video, please do consider subscribing and like the video. Thank you. Yeah, I think it's a good car. I think it's got some issues. It's got some chinks in the armour. I find it pretty unrefined. I don't like that grip issue in the corners, but it's a very practical car with a big boot and a lot of good reliable tech, and it feels modern. So yeah, I think it definitely can compete in the very crowded segment it's in. So yeah, overall I think it's a good car. Don't think my mum's picked a bad one there, especially as I actually recommended it to her in the first place. So thankfully I do actually think it's fairly decent. But let me know what you think about this car. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.